Yep, it's me again. They hate us, that's why they give a fuck about us at the same time. As always, I am your host, JD Miles. The MGTOWs they love to hate. Even the ones that claim everybody loves to hate them, loves to hate MGTOW at the same time, which is why they keep us relevant to this day. And I'm back again. For tonight, I gotta challenge this content creator on her claims in regards of the Manosphere, who goes by the name Manosphere. Yes, the irony in that username. But this isn't an attack. This is me challenging her claims in regards of what she believes the Manosphere is, in which y'all see the title of this video. This is her version of what the Manosphere is about, according to her. Now, there's some claims that she made that I can easily refute. I could easily refute. Some of those claims has been made years ago. Yet, like someone who wants to beat a dead horse, or someone standing above a grave with a shovel trying to dig up dead arguments and claims, this too can also be refuted. What's more, I can help but to see her title. In which, let's be upfront and real. I hope she don't mind if I call her Shan, right? Let's be upfront and real, Shan. You're not the first one who call yourself infiltrating the Manosphere. 7, if not 8 other people did it before you. And what can I say? At this point, these Manosphere infiltrators come a dime a dozen. But here's what really interests me. All these so-called Manosphere infiltrators always come with the same exact results, which always get refuted each and every time. Don't worry. We will pay close attention to the beginning part and where MGTOWs are involved. And before I go any further, this video is protected under Title 107, the Fair Use Act, for critiquing and educational purposes only. This is not an attack video. This is not a diss, a roast, what may have you. This is a video of me refuting some of Shan's claims in regards of the Manosphere. With that being said, let's get started, shall we?
Set the scene for you. It's 2009. Party in the USA is leaking from every major speaker in the country to boost post-recession morale. Kanye West ignites a feud that would last a decade too long.
I'm gonna let you finish, but Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time.
And Michael Jackson inspires the most unhinged Nicki Minaj lyric in music history.
Like MGTOW, they killing me.
God damn it. Also in 2009, someone used the term Manosphere for the first time ever. It came from a blogspot page named Ben and Jeff, who used this newly crafted circle of the internet to post about things they found interesting. That is, video games, sports, beer, the whole shebang. This early Manosphere blog was aligned culturally with masculinity, but it didn't really last long.
However, the Manosphere wasn't publicly known until the end of 2017, beginning of 2018. And rather, this is a blog post of someone making the reference. But it didn't gain popularity until 9 years later. Let's continue.
It killed over after just 10 posts, leaving behind only 9 followers. Who knows? Maybe they moved to Tumblr. When we talk about the Manosphere, it feels like we're talking about something dangerously new. Something that took us by surprise in 2017, held us hostage for a few years before being debunked by the very best video essayists.
Shout out my nigga Gucci.
Really? FD signifier? And that's quite the claim right there. And that's quite the claim right there, Shan. If FD signifier completely debunked the Manosphere, then how come the Manosphere grew more in numbers instead of dwindling? Moreover, how come you got others with these essays claiming that the Manosphere is done, the Manosphere is over each and every year? From 2018 all the way up to present day. What is the one thing they always say? It's the end of the Manosphere. And the next year, the Manosphere just keeps going on and on and on. So, in a nutshell, FD signifier nor any of these essay writers did not debunk the Manosphere. In fact, what they really did was gave the Manosphere free advertisement. Something that, oh my God, something that was not intended to happen, but it did. Let's continue.
Shout out my nigga Gucci.
But Ben and Jeff's Manosphere blog, however obsolete, tells us something different. It tells us that there has been a desire for such space for a very long time. Obviously, we don't know who ran this.
Of course. Remember, before 2009, men never had a voice. And most of the time, it's the women who spoke out. By 2009, the men finally had a place where they could come in, speak their mind. They finally get a platform. Believe me, I know this for an actual fact. Let's continue.
On this page, if they were even a man, if they align with modern Manosphere politics, hell, if they even know what the Manosphere is today. But this blog reflects the same desire that the Manosphere claims to fulfill. The desire for a meeting ground, a digital man cave, where one can gather with like-minded individuals to express grievances and frustration. Now,
just like the women who also has their own groups and also do the same thing. A place to give out their grievances and encourage one another. But let's continue.
let's take a little second to do a little yes and exercise. The internet loves talking about things in terms of black and white, but that's not really the Shakespearean way. We have to be nuanced and honest about this topic, even if it feels...
But are you going to be honest about this topic, Shan? Or will that honesty has nothing but filler? I'm just saying.
Unbearable. So, yes, the Manosphere is a dangerous network that promotes and sustains misogyny, patriarchy, and just about every other discriminatory ism you can think of. And there's a reason why such a community has sustained itself for so long. Yes.
Okay, we come across the first refute. You claim that the manosphere is dangerous. But are you speaking to certain groups of the manosphere, or are you speaking to the manosphere as a whole? If you are speaking to the manosphere as a whole when making that claim, you have just debunked yourself. In which let's keep it a buck 50. Earlier in the same video, you claimed that the manosphere is made up of different groups. So basically, by you saying that the manosphere is dangerous, you are intentionally trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater and try to label all groups of the manosphere as dangerous, but yet show no receipts that each and every group of the manosphere is dangerous. And believe me, the part of the manosphere I'm at, we could easily debunk that claim with the quickness. Let's continue.
Yes, the participants within this community are being radicalized into violent far-rightness. And they may have joined based on what they perceive is a valid reason.
And again, another stroke of the broad brush coming from Shan here. No, Shan, you claim that the manosphere is radical far right. So basically, what you're trying to do is put everybody on a side. Oh, this person's manosphere, then that automatically makes them radicalized far right. Are you sure about that? Because how do you know for a fact that each and every person, every group of the manosphere is automatically on the far right? How do you know that some members of the manosphere have no political affiliation? Oh, you never took the time to think about that, now did you? You were so busy with your far left conspiracy theories and propaganda, you don't pay attention to the ones that have no political affiliation at all. But rather, because you're on the far left, you want to automatically put them on the far right. And I believe I made a video clearly stating that the ones who put people on a side will be their undoing. Because now the same ones who want to put people on a side are now the same ones boo-hoo, whining and crying, because those same people they put on the side are now the same ones voting in opposition just to spite the people that put them on that side to begin with. This is the reason why you hear the far left constantly complaining about the people they put on the far right not supporting their interests. I'm just saying. But let's continue.
Keyword, they perceive. Not me, they. Despite
No. You proceed. Not they, you proceed. And why are you deflecting, Shan? This is your video. This is your version of the manosphere. This is what you believe the manosphere is about. So by the end of the day, all that deflecting ain't gonna work, Shan. This is what you perceive. That being said, and yet another debunk, let's continue.
Despite being well explored, the Manosphere is still complicated to map out. It doesn't just exist on one platform, it doesn't share the same roster, and it's broken up into various niches. How can you challenge something so scattered? How do you decide what is militant and organized discrimination and what's a random dude with a microphone?
Of course, well, you should know this, Shan. After all, didn't you claim that you infiltrated the Manosphere? If you infiltrated the Manosphere, then you should have this common knowledge of what the Manosphere is about. And furthermore, there are groups that of the Manosphere you completely left out. And a group that shouldn't even be in the Manosphere at all. Moreover, I also noticed that you are giving out your grievances for both Jordan Peterson and Matt Rife. Moreover, yes, I've also noticed that you're trying to make Jordan Peterson the face of the Manosphere. Trust me, you can't fool us. But these are the same ones who also claim that Andrew Tate is the face of the Manosphere. Jess Pearly Things is the face of the Manosphere, even though Jess Pearly Things is a woman, which clearly doesn't count at all. Rolo Tomasi, the face of the Manosphere. Fresh and Fit, the face of the Manosphere. This person, the face of the Manosphere. That person, the face of the Manosphere. But the one thing that y'all always fail to comprehend, in order for anyone, and I mean anyone, to be the face of the Manosphere, that person has to represent each and every group of the Manosphere. And this is where these claims constantly fail. How can one person be the face of the Manosphere if all the groups of the Manosphere don't even get along with each other? Which is why they're separate into groups. These groups do their own thing. The MRAs don't like the pickup artists nor MGTOWs. The pickup artists don't like neither MGTOWs MRAs. MRAs are other male groups. Us MGTOWs, we got our problem with other groups of the Manosphere. But one thing is for certain: all the other groups of the Manosphere don't like incels. Period. Oh, of course, the fact that the groups of the Manosphere don't get along with each other makes things even more complex. This is the reason why you can't just say, all these groups of the Manosphere is this, that, and the third. Unless you actually studied each and every one of these groups, you are planning to fail when it comes to making such claims and try to paint the entire Manosphere as a whole with a broad brush. I'm just saying, let's continue.
The Manosphere is connected by shared politics and language. They prize pseudoscience and bioessentialism, which is just fancy talk for climate change isn't real, and double X chromosomes, and you own a bank account? Which?
I know the pause. I digress. That's okay. And what does climate change and all this other irrelevant stuff have anything to do with the Manosphere? I mean, the stuff that you just referenced, what does that have to do with the Manosphere at all? I mean, I'm completely lost in the sauce on this one. But let's continue.
The manosphere is also defined by its endemic misogyny, racism, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, and violence.
Okay, these are big claims. Misogyny, racism, anti-Semitism, and violence. And once again, despite the fact that Shan here has completely stated that the manosphere consists of different groups, she's still trying to find a link. Desperately trying to find a link. Well, all these groups have in common. Not all these groups have everything in common. But again, what did I said? The groups in the manosphere don't even get along with each other. If they don't get along with each other, then some of the groups won't have no common ground at all. This is what Shan completely fails to comprehend. She's so busy trying to find a link between one group and another group of the manosphere and another group of the manosphere in a desperate attempt to try to find common ground. But let's continue.
Most scholars consider the manosphere to be a far-right pipeline. It continuously targets and indoctrinates young people into its ranks. Women are definitely members of the manosphere, which sounds a little oxymoronic.
It is oxymoronic. Oh, women are part of the manosphere? Don't tell me. Oh, don't tell me. You believe that because Just Pearly Thing speaks of the manosphere. And again, she's trying to make someone the face of the manosphere once again. But do all the groups of the manosphere agrees? The answer is no. And before you even talk about Just Pearly Things, some of the groups of the manosphere completely rejects her. This is the reason why you'll never see her having any type of interaction with certain groups of the manosphere. Now, as for your claims of the manosphere being far right, what did I told you earlier? Again, you're trying desperately hard to put everybody on the manosphere on a side when you don't even know their political affiliation. And another thing to keep in mind, because I believe Shan here thinks that the manosphere is just only limited to the West. The manosphere is all over. So the left and right thing completely goes out the window when you're dealing with other countries as well. Oh, each and every country around the world is left wing, right wing. That don't make no sense. Let's continue.
Just as they are members of other far-right radicalizing groups. But young men, especially, are considered the target audience. These men are often white, lower to middle class, and Western. But most importantly,
But this is the same Shan that claimed that that one of the problems with the manosphere is racism. But notice that she put so much emphasis on younger men. Oh, excuse me, younger white men, as if there's no other races in the manosphere. That's right. According to Shan, only white men are in the manosphere. No black men are in the manosphere. No Hispanics. No Asians. No other races in the manosphere except for white men. but she claims that one of the problems of the manosphere is racism. And this ain't the first time. This ain't the first time she contradicts herself. She's going to contradict herself multiple times when it comes to this same problem. Let's continue.
A lot of those who join the manosphere are vulnerable. Now, vulnerability does not mean blameless or valid. Vulnerability means that a person is at risk or susceptible to something. In this case, that something is radicalization. The manosphere targets young.
Boy, radicalization must be her favorite buzzword. Let's continue.
Vulnerable people who are seeking connections and, more importantly, answers to their issues. Maybe their partner has broken up with them. Maybe they have never had sex before. Maybe they see a fast-changing world that is drastically different to what they were promised, in a sense. In such men, the manosphere sees perfect soldiers for their ideology. And the men, in turn...
That's another lie. So basically what Shan here is trying to say is, oh, the manosphere go out their way to try to recruit. This is what she means by soldiers. She thinks that the manosphere is recruiting these men to join, like the army. And again, she's trying to speak for all the manosphere as a whole, when in reality, did she forget the manosphere consists of different groups with their own ideology, their own thought process. So once again, she's trying to paint the manosphere as a whole with a broad brush, in which some parts of the manosphere is not the army, nor are they the Boy Scouts. In fact, the part of the manosphere I'm in, MGTOW, we like the men in black. We ain't gonna recruit you. We're gonna let you have your space, let you decide whether or not you want to join or not. No pressure, no influence. And to answer your question, Shan, no recruiting. It's up to that said individual whether or not he would like to pursue. If he does, okay. If not, oh well. But don't try to sit here and try to lie and say, oh, the manosphere just recruits men. No, they don't. These men decided on their own free will. Let's continue.
See the manosphere as some sort of father figure, one that is committed to them and one that guides them. Within the manosphere, netizens have a choice to either take the red...
I need to go back on this one.
Some sort of father figure, one that is committed to them and one that guides them. Within the manosphere,
Okay. I got to be upfront and real about this. I said that she has grievances for Jordan Peterson, but this is a straight up obsession here. This is a straight up obsession with Jordan Peterson, which, by the way, did not claim to be any part of the manosphere at all. She just wants him to be in the manosphere, all because he talked about certain groups of the manosphere. But this is a downright obsession. And I'm not trying to be funny. I ain't trying to be mean-spirited. But look at this. She has tarot cards of Jordan Peterson. Y'all can't tell me that ain't an obsession. Let's continue.
netizens have a choice to either take the red pill or the blue pill. The blue pill is essentially useless. If you take it, you remain blissfully ignorant, forever locked into the matrix. But the red pill is more exciting. By taking it, you agree to wake up to reality and realize that society is anti-male, anti-masculinity, and anti-you.
By your own definition, I thought the red pill is supposed to represent waking up, see things for what they are, and not how it's depicted. But according to Shan, she thinks that the red pill is a waking up moment just for men. And what's more is you see these cards at the bottom right saying sources, but we don't. But how do we know that these are actual sources and not just something that she made up? Made up just to sound like she has receipts. And me, I like to see websites. I like to see actual sites with actual resources, actual statistics, actual numbers, not some business cards on the bottom right. That don't convince nobody. I'm just being upfront and real. But let's continue.
Every system, every woman, every liberal, leftist, Coca-Cola, DEI is actively working against you. By
Every liberal, every leftist, every DEI hire is working against you. You could clearly tell that Shan here has a side. She clearly has a side. This is why she's trying so hard to put people on the opposition. She's a far left who wants the Manosphere, all of Manosphere, to be on the far right. This explains it all. Let's continue.
By watching someone like Jordan Peterson, you find yourself faced with this choice. Stay asleep or stay woke. And Jordan knows a lot about being woke, apparently.
Oh, I didn't sleep that month. I didn't sleep for 25 days. I didn't sleep at all.
Joshua Thornburn studied two popular subreddits attached to the Manosphere, Incel Exit and X Red Pill. They wanted to figure out what inspires a person to join such an ill-reputed group. The most common reason seemed to be vulnerability. People tended to join after facing a devastating breakup, after being cheated on, or after facing...
In other words, she's getting this information secondhand. She's going by what someone else had to say. But again, Shan here claims that she infiltrated the Manosphere, but yet she's going by what other people say about the Manosphere rather than giving out her own insight. Let's continue.
Facing constant rejection. Most users tended to have low self-esteem to the point of getting black-pilled, meaning that their fate is to be unattractive and undateable for the rest of their lives. Young people, especially of high school age, are most likely to fall victim to Manosphere radicalization. They're
just like that same age group of females can also fall victim to radicalized feminism. But let's ignore that part. Let's just focus on the Manosphere.
They're less likely to have life experience and therefore less likely to be critical of what they're consuming. The most interesting reason someone might join, however, has to do with gender. In my last video, I talked at length about ideal masculinity and how unobtainable it is for most men. Men are constantly fed contradictory and confusing ideas of what it means to be a man. Using role theory.
And once again, we got a woman trying to tell men what a man is supposed to be. Now suppose if I, a man, make a video telling women telling women what a woman is supposed to be. Oh, I'm a misogynist. See the, oh my God. See the double standard and selective outrage in this situation? Because I see it clear as day. Clear as day, like a clear blue sky. Let's continue.
We found that the standard of masculinity, aka patriarchal masculinity, is defined by chaos and anxiety. Anyone who tries to be the perfect representation of a man is likely to be pulled in 50 different directions and stretched thin. Even if they reach the standard, it's highly likely that they'll still be considered failures.
And yes, she's going to continue on whining and crying about the patriarchy because we all know the matriarchy is way better. The future is female. Girls run the world. Y'all get what I'm saying? Y'all get what I'm saying? She cries about patriarchy because the matriarchy is so awesome.
Failures in one department or another. That is the very nature of the patriarchy. As much as you might hope that I'm pulling all of this out of my ass, there's a
Which you are.
precedent for this theory. Numerous people within Thornburn's study expressed an almost sort of dissonance, where they want to achieve patriarchal masculinity, but they notice that they
And where's this Thornburg study at? And how do we know that this study is a reliable source and not just a biased viewpoint? Okay then.
their real personalities and interests are sharply different from what they're expected to be. Even when reading the newsletter submissions from my subscribers in my last video, it became clear that men don't feel secure in their performance of gender, and often feel like they're 20 steps behind everybody else. So,
Sexist much?
in a broad sense, the patriarchy refers to the system that positions men over women. Men are considered dominators, leaders, and superiors by the patriarchy. But if the patriarchy benefits men by making them superiors, then why are they so unhappy?
Okay. Is this her version of a skeptic? Because if she's trying to play the role of a skeptic, then she's doing it completely wrong. I'm gonna just keep it $1.50. If this is supposed to be skepticism, then she's doing it completely wrong. Especially when she's not even questioning the right way. She's giving out what she believes the skeptics are saying. But I digress. Let's continue.
I mean, if that was really the case, they would be the most successful, happiest people in the world. I know a man who's insecure and broke. Well, firstly, men do receive privileges from the patriarchy. There's the obvious ones that are associated with, say, the workplace, like the gender pay gap and the fact that women are more expected to sacrifice their career for children than men are. But there are also inconspicuous privileges that men don't really think about. While they are expected to be attractive by masculine standards, they aren't socialized to view beauty, low weight, and bodily grooming as their sole purpose.
That right there is a reach. No, that is an obvious reach, if that's what she believes. Okay, if what she's saying here is true, then how come not all men benefit? Oh.
Their capability and decision-making skills are not questioned as much as women's. Their sexual promiscuity or history is never put on trial like women's. And
bullshit. and rather, not just bullshit, and rather, she's trying so hard to make it seem like, oh, this only affects the women. It doesn't affect the men. Yes, it does. But let's continue on with her version of the Manosphere.
And they're more likely to be represented in higher positions than women are. But just because someone's privileged doesn't mean all of their life's problems are suddenly solved, especially because there's potentially a bunch of other systems that may make their life harder. For instance,
now she's about to double back on her previous claims. 1 minute, the patriarchy benefits all men, to now, oh, the patriarchy doesn't benefit all men. Geez, the double back always gets them.
Despite receiving patriarchal privilege, men can still be oppressed by, capitalism or classism. Men of color face systemic racism. Men can be exploited by the war machine. During their tenure in the...
You just debunked yourself. There's patriarchal privilege, but not all men benefit from the patriarchy. Okay, if that's the case, then it's not patriarchal privilege. Again, she completely doubled back on what she said previously. Which is it? Is it patriarchal privilege or not all men benefit from the patriarchy? Either or. There is no in between. But let's continue.
In the military, they can become disabled and come home as decorated veterans only to be then discarded by the American government. They can become homeless and face increasingly violent anti-homeless laws and measures. And they can...
With that being said, does the women also face that? No, y'all don't. In fact, you got Congress trying so hard to keep women out of the military whenever this country goes to war. Something to think about.
They can get discarded by the very system that favors them if they fail to meet its strict standards. Trans men, queer men, impoverished men, disabled men, any man who doesn't fit into the tiny, tiny box of patriarchal manhood is often bullied, beaten, emasculated, or, in some cases, killed.
Funny you bring that up because y'all, you women ain't no saints neither. Y'all do that same thing to them as well. So no, this is not just a man thing. It's a unisex thing when it comes to situations like this. Shoot, I seen video of homeless veterans getting treated so ill-willed, get treated so disrespectfully by women, let alone men. So don't try to talk to us as if, oh, y'all women are saints. No, y'all not. And I know many homeless veterans, the disabled, what may have you, that could actually tell you different. In fact, to go the extra mile, if women like Shan here care so much about the alphabet group, how come they're using that same group as a weapon to attack men? Can she answer that? Let's continue.
Oftentimes by other men. Men are denied their full humanity by the patriarchy, even though it claims to love them.
And once again, we got another business card on the far right instead of showing the actual receipts. And again, these business cards proves nothing because this is your creation. We like to see the actual facts, and until we see actual facts, those business cards are bullshit. Let's continue.
You might be thinking, okay, so men aren't able to reach perfect patriarchal masculinity. How is that a bad thing? No one should strive to be patriarchs.
And once again, she thinks she knows what the skeptics are going to say. But in reality, she sounds so clueless. Does she even know what the skeptics are saying right now? But let's continue.
And yes, exactly. No one should want to or be able to embody patriarchal standards. But that doesn't fix the fact that men are still expected to. Gender is considered a social construct. It varies across communities and is influenced by society. Even so, gender still impacts how we are viewed and treated. A lot of people want to be affirmed in their gender, whether they're cis or trans. And because we have this desire, we often work towards aligning with our gender.
Right now, I'm just sitting back wondering, what does all this got to do with the Manosphere? The Manosphere doesn't care if someone wants to be straight, alphabet, what may have you. The alphabet group is doing their thing over there. The Manosphere is doing their thing over here. So where's all this coming from is not just my question, but everybody else's question. Let's continue.
We perform in certain ways to be read as our gender. PJ Burke and Lou Alexander consider identity to be a continuously operating, self-adjusting feedback loop. Individuals continuously adjust behavior to keep their reflected appraisals congruent with their identity standards or references. Men are told that the goal of their gender, the goal of their identity, is patriarchal masculinity. This is defined by hierarchical power.
And notice that she has so much emphasis on patriarchy. Again, she clearly has a side. I mean, for someone to constantly cry about the patriarchy, I mean, isn't it obvious? Let's continue.
Sexual obsession, isolation, brutalization, toughness, and misogyny. No one should strive for these things. But if men...
And why she constantly talks about misogyny? Oh, that's right. The far left always believes that, the Manosphere are such misogynists. Even though the Manosphere clearly, even though you got groups and people in the Manosphere that clearly states that they don't hate women. But let's talk about misandry. Oh, that's right. Those same ones who talk about misogyny wants to claim that misandry does not exist. Oh, there's no such thing as women hating men. But as I stated before, if there's no such thing as misandry, then guess what? There's no such thing as misogyny. To say that there's no such thing as women hating men, guess what? Those roles can be vice versa as well. So if you believe misogyny exists, misandry exists. But that's neither here nor there. Let's continue.
Men refuse to embody patriarchal masculinity, or if they fail to embody it, Their entire purpose exists.
What is patriarchal masculinity? Because this is my first time hearing those two words go together. Is there even such a thing as patriarchal masculinity? Can Shan explain that?
Existence and self-esteem are endangered. This leads to role overload and role conflict, which in turn might lead someone to extremes in order to realign themselves with ideal standards. Take Matt Rife's actions, for instance. His insecurities are on display in much of his work. In order to realign himself with patriarchal masculinity.
And just like Jordan Peterson, what part of the Manosphere does Matt Rife fall in? Oh, that's right. Matt Rife never claimed to be part of the Manosphere. So basically, she's taking these men at random and trying to put them in the Manosphere, even though they never claimed it. And they wonder why these arguments steady getting debunked. I'm just throwing that out there, but she's gonna babble. She's gonna babble for God knows how long. So let's jump ahead.
Do that. I'm trying to make sense of a complicated pattern. There's a very clear disconnect between a boy being born and a man who joins the Manosphere. Somewhere in that disconnect, there's sometimes anger, confusion, anxiety, depression, aggrieved entitlement, and vulnerability. Sometimes.
So why none of the men in the Manosphere shows any of those traits? No. Shan needs to explain this to us. Why none of the men in the Manosphere showed any of those traits at all. In fact, they showed the exact opposite of those traits. But she wants everybody to believe that this is not her own perspective, her own version of the Manosphere. But I digress. Let's continue.
Sometimes. Not always.
Sometimes.
Always?
Not always. No. Sometimes. That means sometimes.
The outlet for these emotions are not handled in a healthy or valid manner. Other people are faced with gender role overload and role conflict constantly, but don't join far-right groups or commit violent acts.
And once again, she's steady crying about far-right groups, even though that's been debunked earlier in this video. I'm just saying.
Really no room for excuses, but there is room for a much too long critical analysis of it.
In other words, she's too lazy to go through the details, so she's gonna gloss over it. Got it.
Manosphere is constantly referred to as a far-right pipeline. But really, it's more like a pipeline to itself. You're hit in the face with violent racism.
And once again, she debunks herself. 1 minute the Manosphere is far right. Now the Manosphere is not far right. Which is it? Is it right wing or is it not right wing? Pick one.
Racism, anti-Semitism, misogyny, and transphobia.
And once again, she's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Once again, she's trying to label all groups of the Manosphere as misogynistic, anti-Semitic, racist, and violent. Despite the fact that some of the groups of the Manosphere shows none of that. But she wants to paint them all with that broad brush because she wants to have links between all the groups. She wants all these groups that don't get along with each other to have something in common. Really? Really?
Right in the gates. The community doesn't chew you up and spit you out towards more right-leaning groups. The Manosphere just absorbs you into itself. Sarah B. considers the Manosphere a form of grooming. And this makes sense. The very basics of
And is this Sarah V a reliable source, or is this a second hand theory? I'll ask again. Is Sarah Beebe a reliable source, or this is a second-hand opinion?
of grooming starts off with a predator choosing a vulnerable person, often a child. And said child may be isolated, lonely, and suffering from low self-esteem. The very same.
And who is you calling a predator? Shan the spear, the irony. Okay, Miss Cleo. Please explain to everybody how the Manosphere are predators. We would like to know.
Same traits of those who are most likely to join the Manosphere. A predator is able to pinpoint the issues of their victims, the things that make them easily seducible and compliant. Predators push against insecurities. They build what initially feels like a stable sense of trust. And all the while, they slowly escalate the tension, pushing you further and further until you end up in a place you never anticipated going.
I hate to call people bullshit, but this I got to make an exception. So basically, she's trying to call the Manosphere predators, as if, the Manosphere preys on the young and vulnerable. Really? Really? This sounds more like fear-mongering. No, seriously, this sounds more like fear-mongering than anything. Oh, watch out, the Manosphere will prey on your children and all this other stuff. Get the fuck out of here. Let's continue.
But even as the violence mounts, even as you question your place within this hierarchy.
What violence? Now, if she's talking about the incels, that's one thing. But what is this violence she's talking about? And how does all the groups of the Manosphere are violent? Because the part of the Manosphere I represent has no violent history. Again, she's talking out her ass when she claims that all the Manosphere are violent. But let's continue.
You can't leave. They love you and trust you so much. They're the only person on earth who does. Why not fall in line with their every thought, command, and belief?
Because it doesn't work that way, Shan. Again, we don't recruit. We don't recruit, and we damn sure don't force these men to join the Manosphere. We don't. No matter how much you trying to paint this picture, this pretty little picture, it doesn't work that way. This is what you want people to believe. And again, this is fear-mongering propaganda. The same exact thing others who claim that they infiltrated the Manosphere tried before and failed miserably. Now here you come using that same old song and dance strategy, expecting a different result. Now, I got to fast forward this to a certain time, because this is what really gets me here. Now get a load of this.
Incels have a very unique zeitgeist. They have their own vocabulary, their own dialect. Incel as a word itself is interesting. It's a combination of the words involuntary and celibate, but it elicits such a strong response that it almost exists separately from ordinary language itself. Incels have an entire word bank like this, and these terms are often categorized. They talk about being red-pilled, which is functionally the same as being woke, except
Now we just caught Shan in yet another lie. Last time I checked, incels described themselves as being black-pilled. So, how did Shan, despite all this, how did Shan came up with this theory that, oh, incels call themselves red pill? Right now, I'm at a loss of words. So basically, what Shan here is trying to say is incels are both red pill and black pill. Which pill are the incels? And no, don't give us that, oh, they're red black pill. No, there's only one color pill. And we all know that it's not red pill. So again, she infiltrated the Manosphere, but yet she is so clueless. Let's continue.
except their idea of wokeness is drastically different from the more common use of the term. They believe that to be red-pilled means to wake up and see society for what it really is. In their minds, this means anti-male, matriarchal, and unfair. To curb their ill fate, some red pillars believe that they can alpha their way into the in-group. If they lift enough weights or make enough money and get enough girls, then maybe they'll become acceptable men. But other
So what are you saying, Shan? You're saying that even from your point of view, there's no hope? They could do all of this and they still ain't gonna be successful? Is that what you're saying? Because it seems like you are definitely putting them down. And yes, I'm gonna have a video out which gonna talk about this, because let's be upfront and real. Some of these fools online create their own monsters, then complain about those same ones being monsters. What did Morgan Freeman said when he was playing the role of Principal Clark on Lean on Me? You treat them like animals, that's exactly what they are going to be. And then you will turn around crying about why they are acting like animals. And as I stated in previous videos, if you ain't gonna help them, why are you being a roadblock? I've said this before, other people said this before. If you don't want to help them, fine. But why are you stonewalling them? from progressing. That way they could have a successful. They could do the things necessary to have a successful life, to go back out there in the real world and to be successful. Oh, that's right. Oh, that's right. Y'all don't want them to change because y'all want something, because y'all still want them to stay the same so y'all could continue y'all sob story. We get it. We all get it. Let's continue.
Other incels, those who take the black pill, believe that there is no cure. Some walks.
God, once again, I know how to pause. And once again, Shan contradicts herself. First she said incels are red pill. Now she's saying incels are taking the black pill. And again, a group can't have more than one pill. Just like a slave can't have two masters. Love one, hate the other. Be loyal to one, despise the other. And as far as we know, the incels labeled themselves as black pill. So where she's getting this red pill nonsense from, we don't know. Let's continue.
Just don't have a key, as Sarah B. argues. The term incel itself can be further categorized. Using racial stereotypes, some incels have come to be known as curry cells and rice cells for South Asian and East Asian people.
Well, congratulations, Shan. So sorry for this. Yes, you should be sorry because now you just turned yourself into a complete hypocrite. It's funny that you claim once again, you claim that one of the problems with the Manosphere is racism, but you yourself is calling certain incels curry cells and rice cells. I wonder what curry cells and rice cells mean.
Respectively. Interestingly, Stacy's refer to all women, and it seems like this is one of the only terms in the incel community that isn't fractionated into other categories.
But yet you limited this saying to just the incels. There are other groups in the Manosphere that also refers to women as Stacy's. No, not just the incels, other groups of the Manosphere also refers to women as Stacy's. So why is Shan here making it just an incel thing? I don't know.
This perhaps shows just how deeply rooted the incel comes to despise women, generalizing the entire population in one term. Stacy's are.
But aren't you doing the same thing, Shan? Aren't you also trying to generalize the Manosphere as a whole by saying that they're violent, they're misogynistic, they're anti-Semitic, they're this, that, and the third? So it's quite contradictory and hypocritical to spend this whole 1 hour and a half minute video generalizing the Manosphere, but then complain about generalization. I'm just putting that out there. Let's continue.
These are seen as universally unintelligent, unsophisticated, and driven by primal female interests. They're natural cheaters.
Oh, that's right. It's only wrong when the Manosphere does it. But when the far left feminist DEI hires do it, somehow that's different.
Deceivers, and manipulators who tend to prefer Chads over incels. Now, Chads are the alpha males who epitomize patriarchal masculinity. They're described as insensitive meatheads who are often wealthy, attractive, and dominating. Incels have a
Wait, wasn't Elliot Rodger also part of that group? But yet he still struggled. Oh, another debunk.
a very complicated relationship with Chads. For some red pillars, their goal is to embody this perfect standard.
Okay, she goes from red pill to black pill, then back to red pill, red pill. It's clear to see that Shan doesn't even know what she's even talking about herself. She's just basing this off of third party opinions and other junk, thinking that oh, she just infiltrated the Manosphere. I just gotta throw that out there.
Standard of masculinity. But for the black-pilled incels, Chads represent.
Now she just went back to black pill. Red pill, black pill, red pill, black pill, red pill, black pill. Golly, she don't know what pill.
Represent something unobtainable, something that they'll never achieve, which in turn inspires resentment. Keeping in line with the interesting racial categories, Chads can come in all shapes and sizes. Black Chads are sometimes called Tyrones, and East Asian Chads might be called Changs. The culture of the Manosphere is so unique that regardless of one's race, regardless of one's allegiance to whichever niche, the language and the politics remain the same. The Black Manosphere.
No, they don't. And it's funny she's going to talk about the Black Manosphere, but yet the Black Manosphere are in a league of their own. I mean, how many debunks did I make so far on this video? But let's fast forward further, shall we? Funny that she put this here because she's been speaking nonsense during the whole entire duration of the video that I constantly got to fast forward because none of the things she's saying makes absolute sense whatsoever. In fact, the entire video don't make any sense, let alone the part where she became delirious from filming. I'm just saying.
Jordan Peterson's participation within.
Oh boy, here she go with Jordan Peterson again, trying to put him in the Manosphere, even though Jordan Peterson is not part of the Manosphere.
The Manosphere is especially interesting to me. Very early in his digital career, he wasted interviews being aloof about his connection with the community. He claimed that his goal was to make videos for everyone, regardless of identity, and not just for young, white, disaffected men.
Boy, so much grievance for Jordan Peterson. Jeez, did Jordan Peterson hurt Shan here?
It's mainly because Jordan at this time considered aligning with any one group identity to be a mistake. He called feminism a mistake, trans activism a mistake, and would have probably considered being a Manosphere podcaster a mistake too. That is, before the money started pouring in.
Where's your evidence behind that claim? And if he called the Manosphere a mistake, then why is you crying because he called feminism a mistake? Oh, that's right, because you're a far-left feminist who whines and cries about the Manosphere to the point to where you got to give out your own version of the Manosphere, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. We get it now.
Despite claiming that he does not have an ideology, Jordan began aligning himself with incels.
Oh, that's a great idea, Shan. He said he had no ideologies. So what do you do, Shan? You decide to give him an ideology, which contradicts, and let me say this again, this contradicts your claims of the Manosphere going around recruiting people on a side when you are doing the exact same thing. And if Jordan Peterson has no ideology, why are you trying to put him in one in a desperate attempt to have an argument? You just completely, and I'm going to be honest here, you just completely shot yourself in the foot with this attempt.
He argues that the patriarchy doesn't exist, and that instead, society looks at a small pool of hyper-successful men and attributes those skewed statistics to every man on Earth. And of course, he also began to spew a lot of
Well, let's see. The richest men in the world are the top, as I recall, the top 5%. The ones who are not millionaires and billionaires, but still up there, are the top 10%. And everything else on downward is just average. Yeah, that sounds about right.
MRA rhetoric, claiming that men are the real victims of systemic oppression. Now, this all sounds like having an ideology to me. What made Jordan Peterson?
By your definition, Shan, according to you, Shan, because this is what we getting at.
Peterson change his mind. It turns out that Jordan changes his mind a lot. In a 2017 lecture, Jordan called Manosphere adjacent men pathetic weasels.
You know, there's a whole group online called Men Going Their Own Way, MGTOW. That's a very interesting group to go study.
But wait, Shan, you said that Jordan Peterson called manospheric males weasels. But as we just heard from Jordan Peterson, he's talking about MGTOW. So what you're trying to do, Shan, is, so here's what you're trying to do, Shan. You're trying to put words in Jordan Peterson's mouth. Words he never said. And it's clear to see that, you trying to make MGTOW the head of the Manosphere, which we are not. What's even more ironic, you got this part under the incels. So what are you saying, Shan? Are you saying that MGTOWs are incels? If so, that argument's been dead years ago. So where are you going with this is everybody's question.
There's lots of them. I don't know how many of them there are, and most of them are older. Many of them are men who've been through a particularly horrifying divorce for one reason or another, and they've had enough of women. So they tell the young men that they're teaching, never have a permanent relationship, never share your territory with a woman, never share your possessions, make sure you never live together, and don't stay with one long enough to enter a common law relationship because you will be stripped of everything that you have. You're a woman who has trouble with men, or you're a man who has trouble with women. It's not the women and it's not the men. It's you. Because the women are telling you what's wrong with you, and the men are telling you what's wrong with you. And if you don't listen, then it's you. It's either you or all men. Well, that's easy. It's all men. Well, that's certainly how it's played out in the world right now. It's like, no, it's not all men. You can be sure, by definition. And it's not all women, that's for sure. I don't want to have anything to do with women. It's like you're a pathetic weasel. I think I was a little.
So according to Shan, Jordan Peterson saying that men going their own way, or MGTOW for short, is equating to manospheric males. So she shot her foot completely off, trying to make one group of the manosphere the complete head of the manosphere. So in other words, what Shan trying to do is she's trying to make MGTOW. She's trying to make it seem like, oh, MGTOW completely runs the manosphere. One group controls the entire manosphere. And which, let me go ahead, and as a MGTOW, let me go ahead and debunk that shit right here, right now. MGTOWs does not run the manosphere. Yes, MGTOWs are part of the manosphere, but they don't run the manosphere. This is what you were going at, Shan. Good job. You didn't just shoot yourself in the foot with this. You completely blown your foot completely off with this desperate attempt. Let's continue.
Little dismissive of the men going their own way. And they have what I would regard as an undue influence.
Men going their own way, a.k.a. MGTOW.
Influence over relatively bitter and resentful young men who haven't had great success in the dating market and who are looking for a rationale to write off all women because they're so hurt by their continual rejection. And that is not good for those young men. And so the reason that I disparaged the men going their own way was because I had seen the pernicious effect, these are often older guys, the pernicious effect of their world-weary philosophy on young men. Now, these guys...
And yeah, I can honestly say Jordan Peterson really screwed up trying to call MGTOW weasels and don't even know what MGTOW is about. Just like you, Shan, you trying to make MGTOW seem like, oh, MGTOW is the manosphere itself, when in actuality, MGTOW is just another group in the manosphere.
I think that they're just warning them, and they are warning them, but they're not just warning them. Now, the reason I regret calling them pathetic weasels is because they also have a point. I do believe that the court systems are staggeringly anti-male, absurdly, horribly anti-male, and so the men going their own way have a point. And so I'm sorry that I called them pathetic weasels.
5 years later, Jordan went on Piers Morgan and cried in solidarity for these men.
I thought the marginalized were supposed to have the voice.
These men, he argued, don't know how to make themselves attractive to picky women.
Funny, because he was referring to the incels, Shan, not the MGTOWs. So yes, we get it. You think that, so yes, you trying to portray MGTOW as incels. Which what you're doing is group mixing. Oh yeah, that's right. You need MGTOWs to be in the same boat as incels, even though not just the MGTOWs came out refuting that claim, but even the incels themselves came out refuting those claims. And keep this in mind, in case Shan didn't pay no attention while she was infiltrating the manosphere, the incels and us MGTOWs do not get along, period. So basically, just like all the others before Shan, you got her trying to put MGTOWs and incels in the same boat, knowing good and damn well that neither group gets along with each other, period. There is no common ground. This is why you got pathetic losers sitting there trying to find a missing link between the two groups that's not even there. Congratulations, Shan. You played yourself trying to pull that stunt. But let's go further.
Yeah.
Good for them. Women, like, be picky. That's your...
And for the record, Jordan Peterson was talking about the incels. So where does MGTOW fall into this? And this is why you far left femitards, DEI hires, and the sensitive majority always constantly look foolish trying to push your fear-mongering propaganda. But here's the final icing on the cake, because I want y'all to hear what Shan says about the feminist and how she completely contradicts her claims altogether.
To me, after I posted my Matt Rife video, there were infrequent yet loud voices in that comment section that derided me for analyzing men's relationship to the patriarchy. They emphasized their lack of interest or care.
Because that's exactly what you're doing. And you think that you're pulling the wool over everybody's eyes. But your comment section is definitely telling you that you're not.
Care in such topics. They implored me to focus on women and our struggles only. One comment stressed that I was centering men. Another said that these women, meaning me, I guess, simply can't understand how centering men won't save me or them. A few things, and then I'm going to get out of your hair. What do you mean by these women?
Simple. You women are trying so hard to try to censor the Manosphere. You're trying to silence the Manosphere. In fact, how many attempts were made to try to censor and silence the Manosphere by your side, Shan? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 times y'all tried to silence and censor the Manosphere. Ha 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 ha.
Also, I think it's a bit silly to say that I'm censoring men when I have 1 or 2 videos on my entire channel that explicitly talk about men.
Well, apparently that's exactly what you're trying to do, considering the fact that you're trying to paint all of the Manosphere as a whole as quote-unquote misogynist, violent, terroristic, anti-Semitic, racist. But you're standing there wondering why these men saying this stuff. But you're not trying to censor. Despite the number of attempts, not from you, Shan, but from your ilk. And we all know what your ilk is. In fact, you'll explain it to us.
I have over 30 videos that exclusively talk about women and feminism. And in general, most of my nearly 70 videos center the conversation around women's culture and girlhood. Even in the 2, now 3 videos that I talk about men, I still talk about misogyny and other discrimination. And it's also like, I think we kind of forget that YouTube videos are not full conversations. We tend to think that a YouTube video ending is the end of a conversation. There is a multitude of things that I can't include here, multiple opinions that I have that I simply don't include in my videos because I'm not talking to anybody, I'm writing an essay. Essays are not as whole and complete as academics wish they could.
In other words, it's exactly what I said before. You're speaking nonsense, but you're trying to write it off as actual fact. This is something we've been figured out.
Be. On a more serious note, though, I'm not mad at these comments. I can sift through the condescension and see what so many people are feeling upset about. The pain and fear that women feel for men, the pain and fear that makes them feel disconnected and divested from men, is valid. I understand why.
So why are you throwing more gas on that fire? And don't tell us that you're not, because you clearly are. If you understand, then why are you escalating the situation? Now let me fast forward some more.
Told that the people who are most likely to hurt me, who have hurt me in the past, are also victims in their own ways. Because how does that make me feel any better? There have been centuries of domination, dehumanization, objectification, all of which are still occurring. Under the patriarchy, women do not feel loved by men, and therefore do not feel comfortable or safe loving in return.
And once again, I call bullshit. This has nothing to do with the patriarchy. This is something that you believe is part of the patriarchy.
Telling women that they have to work alongside men or even think about men for more than 5 seconds feels like pressing on a wound. Even men in progressive spaces often perpetuate misogyny. They continue to nurse their own biases and end up hurting people they claim to advocate for.
Women do the same thing too, so don't blame misogyny for that. You women do the exact same thing. Again, you're trying to paint yourselves as saints when you're not.
I have no problem admitting that I'm afraid of men. I grew up being abused by a man. I've been harassed by men. I don't have many fruitful connections or relationships with men. Man on a regular basis, and that's because I've been able to establish a sense of trust and safety with him. Now,
well, let me go ahead. Well, I'm sorry that it happened to you. No, understand, this is coming straight from the heart. I'm sorry that you were abused by a man and all of that. That should never happen. That should never happen. Period. But ma'am, on a serious tip, because I'm starting to think that you are now using your hurt. You are now using your hurt and try to inject it on other people. Yes. There's a reason why, as that saying goes, hurt people hurt people. And that's just not a saying, that's an actual fact. Yes, you were abused. I'm not going to deny that. Yes, that all that stuff happened to you. I'm not saying that it didn't, or I'm not trying to make a joke out of it. I'm being dead serious. But if you're not careful, if you're not careful and you don't find ways to heal from your hurt, then what are you going to do, ma'am? You're going to inject your hurt onto other people. Hurt people hurt people. And this is exactly what I'm seeing here. But I'm not gonna waste any more time on this. Yes, you have been challenged on your claims. Your claims have been debunked. Good day, ma'am. And that's all I'm going to say. And with that, I said what I had to say. I'm done and I'm out this bitch. Later.